Nope. I hate Zoom. I hate it so much. Hi, everybody. It is Sarah Mae Bates for Help Me Be Me. This episode is a a soul power up in that it is really just to like reset and refocus what you choose to be and who you choose to embody in your day to day. And I would think of this as kind of like a mid year check in on anything you have set up in your journal, maybe in the earliest part of the year. And really to take stock and look at your progress. So I have a fun little set of reminders that I just kind of, I mean, I have a little cheat sheet on my phone that I read occasionally to myself just to remind myself of the magic of the universe. And I'm going to invite you to do this for yourself, um, and maybe grab a journal because there's a couple exercises that relate to journaling. So I'm going to start this episode with an energy expectation cleanser. And that is to remind yourself that love and openness is really how we actualize a destination. And it is really how we tune into what is true for us. When we can get into that energy, it is the equivalent of being in alignment with what is true of who you are. And I think of love, feeling an embrace for what is, an openness for what will be. That energy is very much when we can align ourselves with the highest potential of what is meant for us. I know that's kind of like an odd mindfuck kind of thing to say. Um, so, what I'm asking you to do right now is just kind of resume in your body a sense of optimism, openness, and anticipation, whatever that means to you. And and when we can really be in that non-judgmental mindset and open to what is, what will be, but optimistic, that is kind of the most clear-headed we can be, and when we can tap into our intuition the most effectively. And that is because we have to be in a state of non-judgment. I remember a quote from the telepathy tapes, a recent episode. Telepathy is shy, and I think that that is true with anything creative, with anything that is channeled. It's almost like, and forgive this metaphor, it's almost like pooping, in that it has to be. It's a very private and or you have to feel safe in order to be in that energy of openness, intuition, creativity, channeling, getting to whatever it is you want to actualize in your life. So, how can we be in a daily practice of allowing ourselves to condition ourselves to get into that place of love, openness, non judgment, and really a readiness for all that is great to come forth in our life? And I think for me, a lot of that comes down to a set routine, or as often as possible, a routine of coming back into that awareness of the higher vibrations, for lack of a better term. So I wanted to start this episode with an energy expectation cleanser. And really, if you have something in your mind, in your heart that you wish for, what I mean by that, I want you to actually give it love and give it energy and just think of it, embody it in your mind, in your full visualization with in all its glory. I know this is like a weird idea, but I feel that love is a direct channel to something actualizing in your life, and really loving something genuinely in your energy with all of yourself. It actualizes what that thing is in your future. It's almost like you create it, you render it with that feeling of love. I'm going to give you some really random and weird examples. I very strongly feel that my image of a perfect relationship and what I longed for in another person and what I longed for in feeling in a relationship eventually became my husband. And similarly, my ideal of what would be a perfect home and what would be a really wonderful place to bring up children and what would feel like a spiritual and grounding creative center of family became my home. And it's almost like, a different way of describing a process that would be natural and normal and not weird in any way. I'm just describing it from a different vantage point. If you have something in your mind that you want to actualize, that you feel so much love for, and that you think of as so important and so wonderful, it is natural that that thing would be a picture you would paint in reality, that you would create for yourself. And it's really about consistently holding a vision for this thing, whatever it is. I think that one thing that can happen to us as adults, if we go through loss or trauma or shock of any kind, is that we grow a fear of love, a fear of attachment, a fear of wanting or longing. And when we get into that superstitious kind of like, I don't want to feel loss, I don't want to be hurt so bad and feel such a dramatic wound again, that will almost get embedded in our body, and we will think, um, I shouldn't go toward these things. I shouldn't feel this level of longing or love for an idea. It'll be like an invisible kind of superstition is kind of the word I would use. Your body will be adverse to it. And if that feels true for you, I just wanted to bring up that that is probably why it happened for you, is because you had a loss that hurt so much that your body is telling you, like, don't want anything anymore. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. So I just want you to take apart the feeling. If that's something that's true for you, see it for what it is, which is really specifically tied to um, my nervous system is overactive in this very specific area. And really, what we do is just we have to be aware of it. We have to be aware of that superstitious energy and then really teach ourselves to act despite it. Really go into it and walk through it and get used to that being normal. Really just like welcoming that as normal and a part of just moving through changing our muscle memory around um, love and like the idea that we could be happy. And if you feel like there is a block between you and a thing, I'm guessing that's because you've experienced a loop of some sort where you have been kind of like duped and you realize you come back into the same place again and again. If that sounds like it's you, I would say that that is a different set of circumstances that needs to be addressed individually. I think usually when that is happening, it's because we aren't fully aligned with reality. Like some part of ourselves is saying, I want this stuff, but I want to ignore this stuff. So if that's something that's happening, if you're getting into a loop where you're like, I think everything's perfect and then it blows up in my face, that to me seems like, okay, we got to look at what you're not choosing to see. What are you not choosing to acknowledge in a set of circumstances? It doesn't have anything to do with you not being able to have all that you want in the world. It just means that you have to also include in this equation some other real concrete things that you also need to want in order for that thing to happen. I don't know if that made sense. But my point is to give love and joy to a visual in your mind and make it very clear what that thing is that you 100% with all your being adore and cannot wait to have in your life. And those things will be different each year. each 6 months, even each 3 months, even. So today, what I'm inviting you to do is look at those things. What are they right now? And what are they like kind of longer term? And they don't have to all be, you know, lofty, uh, emotional things. They could be like literal things. And I think all of them have a place in like designing a life that makes you feel so rewarded and so happy. I think of it as being kind of divided into houses, your relationship house, your health house, your finances house, your personal growth house, and your spiritual house. Did I already say that one? Whatever buckets you want to put them into, just really, this is an opportunity to think through what are the things you have love for. And that visual will actualize through your daydreaming, through your visualizations of those things, how they will feel when you have them and when you live through them, and what will be the reward for you on a soul level when you experience it. Like, what is the actual deep, resonant reward that will be created in you when that thing comes about? They aren't all superficial. Some of them are like deep, profound, um, really unions of all the things that you are great at bringing into this world. So it's almost like being able to express yourself on a complete level. And know that when we do this exercise, what I'm describing is like this practice of embodying love, we are really coming from a place of openness, non-judgment. And really the goal is to be in the energy of not fearing, no fear of loss, and not pressuring it, just being like really open to like maybe it will be and maybe it will not be. I welcome what is supposed to be. Like a non-judgmental state is essential. It's almost like as I mentioned, like it's kind of a delicate energy that really needs to come from the right place, like singing or like jazz. When you're in a full expression of something pure, it arrives from a frequency of love. It's like it is so ultimate and specific. And love is the equivalent of the energy of um, intuition and connection. So it's like all of this is going to serve so many other facets of your life. It's not just about this like one little journal exercise. It really is remembering yourself and remembering who you are, truly, outside of all the like really what I'll call masculine energy of muscling things, making shit happen. Like the active energy where you're controlling and when you're doing is kind of inverse. It's the opposite of this other energy, which is like very open, very pure, very creative. And creativity and openness are kind of like the most powerful form of creativity comes from that receptive state. And all of that is to say, like, energy is very much a daily practice that we have to give ourselves grace around, because we can't access it all the time. Sometimes we have to go through phases where we are really taxed. We have to handle a lot of shit. We have to do so many things, and we are not able to be in this fully embodied state. And if that's just the way life is, like there are times where you'll be put through the ringer. That is to be expected. So we have to give ourselves grace when we go through those stages if we are not fully in this love zone. That might be a month where you're just like in the grind and just trying to get through it. That is part of it. But now that maybe you're not in that stage right now, come back to this reset, this cleanse of reminding yourself to be optimistic and loving toward ourselves, to really tune into that energy and that perspective in ourselves. And as I mentioned, my suggestion for doing that, and I do this sometimes when I'm in the shit of it, when I'm in like the gnarliest, working so hard that I'm depleted, I'll sometimes just remind myself to reset my perspective. And as I said, on my phone, I have a little cheat sheet of like memories of the truth of reality. Um, but I would say, as a routine maintenance plan, we can practice daily prayer. And prayer, I don't mean as a religious thing. I mean, and it's really the practice of knowing what is your truest form of self. I also like to write prayers down as a means to actualize or reaffirm the truth and the resonance I feel behind those beliefs or those wants or those requests. So prayer is really just um, a, the most quote unquote pure voice of what you intend. And it could be a hope for somebody else. It could be a hope for goodness. It could be a hope for something great, for relief for all people, for somebody else who's suffering. It could also be just the act of sending somebody love. Prayer is just a catch all term for very pure, resonant thought or wish or message or connection to something higher than yourself. And it's so powerful in just how it reminds you to come into a state of reverence, and my brain and all the stuff is not at the top of my worth or my hierarchy or the most important thing in the world. It's like a really helpful reset to ground you if you're getting into that myopia of like, ah, everything's terrible or whatever the thing is. Like when we get trapped in all the thoughts and all the stuff, like constant daily practice of prayer really, really helps with that. Second on my list of my daily routine, meditation. And I know a lot of people cannot meditate. It's not like for them. It's not a fun thing. It does not attract them in any way. Meditation can mean something as simple as um, going outside and tuning in for a few seconds into what the immediacy of a tree does to your psyche. Just like I think really effective is going under the canopy of a tree and for split seconds just tuning into, I'm now just looking at these leaves. I'm now just looking at this flower. The brain will shut off. The thoughts, the narrative will just shut off for like a brief moment of quiet. And that I would consider meditation. Another one that I like to do is before I go to bed, just because your brain's already kind of like starting to quiet down or drift off. So if you can just see for a few minutes, if you could just kind of zone into the blackness of your eyelids or the patterns of your closed eyelids and just allow that to be a meditation. It's really just like flexing that muscle of disassociating from your thoughts, of non attachment to thoughts, and just remembering that you have access to that at any given time. Another helpful one, I used this a lot when I was in like the kind of worst pain of my previous, most recent trauma. And I would just like breathe. I think I was doing meditation where I would just breathe as loud as I could. So it would literally just drown out. I would plug my ears and just do slow, even deep breaths. It was so loud that it was louder than my thoughts. So that's another one I invite you to try. And then last on this list is to talk to others and be candid with others about what you are working on, what you are struggling with, what you are hoping for. And what happens when you do this, when you involve others in that equation, is they can get you out of a rut or a negative state of thinking, or you can gain outside power in a situation that you do not feel you have not felt capable of growing out of previously. It's like it's a different way to hear yourself when you can interact with other people. And the quickest way to get out of your own rumination or your own thought loops is to get out of your head and into somebody else's head. It's like a very good, effective, quick solve. And I mean very specific people. I'm not talking about find the person that loves to complain. I'm talking about like find the people that are on a similar path to you and share where you're at, share where you're trying to go. And that will be a game changer. And make that a practice, like a pretty regular practice. Um, and if you are in a funk right now, don't forget to be outside as much as possible. Sun changes your chemistry so dramatically. And it is like you'll notice it like you were given the most powerful antidepressants. If you spent a day outside, a full day running around and playing sports outside, and you came back in at the end of the day, you'd be like, whoa, I feel totally different. You underestimate it when you haven't done it for a long time. And then when you actually do it, you're like, oh, wow, this is like meds. Um, and I always say this, but like, don't forget your thoughts are prompts. If you are feeling um, scarce or rushed or like there's not enough, what I usually do if I'm feeling like there's not enough time and I notice I'm overscheduling myself and I'm rushing from place to place, what I remind myself immediately of is time stretches for you. Time changes when you ask it to. You can stretch out time by just changing your own response, your own body's response and slowing down. Usually what I'll do is I'll recognize it first of all, and then I'll slow my breathing and I'll remind myself time stretches for me and I ask time to stretch for me and then I just start to see that. Start to actually observe it. I almost like minute by minute will watch how slow is time going right now. And your job is really to be intentional with how you move through your everyday. Be intentional and really visualize what you want, what you love, and be diligent about adding energy toward that specific goal, that specific set of loves. And also, constantly, we have to constantly condition ourselves. We have to condition how we expect to view the world as we move through it. Like what you expect of something is what you will get from it. And so if you are in maybe you're in a fear kind of like old muscle memory, anticipation of something bad, and you're in that fear state, what I do to disengage that is I remind myself I will be okay no matter what. And I do the mental meditation practice of welcoming both outcomes. So the first would be you live through in your mind's eye the worst possible outcome, visualize that thing happening, and then also visualize the aftermath of like, and I will move through it, and I will do this, I will then do this, I will do this, and I will be okay. And then after you visualize the best possible outcome, you visualize, I will do this, I will feel this, and then I will be okay. And then the last step is to welcome what is meant to be. I accept both outcomes. I remain open to what will be, what is meant to be. That practice is almost like clearing the energy plane in your body. It's really like walking or washing off all the gunk of bad energy, conflicted energy, ambivalence, so that you can really just, you will start to just head toward the thing that is true for you, which is equivalent to what you love. Truth and love are like synonymous. And when we are actualizing things that are related to friction and growth, it is because it is in service of growing a skill we are required to have to get to the thing that we truly want and love. Um, so, another meditation I wanted to offer you is to call to your mind who you intend to be. Your intention. I mean, having an intention is such a game changer in how you interact in a room and how you interact in a circumstance. And I think a lot of the time when we're not really conscious, we just kind of react to things and we just kind of move through life without being intentional. So I'm inviting you right now to call your intention for being to mind and ask yourself, who do I want to be? Who do I really intend to be? So I'm going to give you a moment to think about that for yourself. For me, it's I want to be a person my kids adore and can't wait to be around. I want to be a person my husband uh, has a crush on and who I can crack up. Um, I want to be a person who is inspiring, kind, present, compassionate, um, and highly embodied in creativity. So, who do you want to be? Who do you choose to be? Just like bring that to mind. All right. And with that, I have some tools for you. I would grab your journal if you haven't already. And before I go into these tools, here is a brief word from our sponsors. All right. The first tool is the vision board recap. I don't know if you make a vision board. If you don't make one, highly recommend it. I know that is such a like, has so much baggage and feels so cliche, or I don't know what it means. But for a lot of people, it's a very effective way of um, creating a map for all the things that you want in your life, because it helps you like just think it through. Otherwise, we're kind of like, I don't know, whatever that guy wants, I'll take. And oh, you're doing that, I should do that too. Like we're kind of guided by other people and culture. So I think a vision board is a really just helpful check-in for us to just respond to visual material and say like, does this feel right? Is this exactly what I want? Or what am I really excited about? What gets me so thrilled to visualize? So it's like it's almost mapping your unconscious in some ways, but it's also giving yourself a chance to be very directed. So if you haven't made a vision board, you can still do this tool. But I want you to think about what did you want? What were you hoping for at the beginning of this year? And and if you didn't do a vision board, just look at your journal and like what you wrote down. Like what were you hoping for at the beginning of this year? Were you working on? And then also look back and ask what is no longer feeling important to you? Like what was maybe coming from an externally motivated, superficial place that you can now put down? So, the first prompt for this reflection: what is your number one goal you are working on in your life still? What is most important to you? And you can just write down like this in the form of what you want to be, where you want to be, what you want to have, all of those things. Second set of prompts: where have you been so far on this set of things? Like, and I would break this into all of the individual boxes. Like, where were you and where are you now? What's the progress you've made on all of your houses? Your personal growth, spiritual, relationship, financial, and future, if you want to include that one, like distant future where you want to be. Second set of prompts: go through an inventory of those things and ask yourself, how am I doing? And what can I do better on? Like, what can I focus on more? What needs my attention in all of those areas? And this is not to like feel bad about yourself. It's really just to be able to redirect your focus. Because I think what oftentimes happens is we get in a reactive state that takes up a lot of time and energy. And we kind of get high from whatever that thing is. Like, if it's like somebody else is asking you to do whatever goal, professional goal, or other people have put expectations on you, and we can get caught up in achieving in a specific area that maybe isn't actually so important to us, but it feels like I'm winning because I'm doing it right and those people are complimenting me. So it's like it's a distraction that happens to a lot of people. So this is just an opportunity to look at like, these are the things I really care about. Am I still progressing on these topics? If not, like what can I start to redirect and take time from in things in areas that I actually don't care about at all, that aren't so important, that were really based in ego and box checking. So, just like maybe summarize or highlight for yourself, like these are the areas that I really want to start to dedicate more time to and like think about how can I just start to go through the motions on something related to that thing. And I think of like going through the motions on a goal as sometimes feeling completely like automatic and devoid of feeling. Like it doesn't have to be something that you feel physically excited to do, but you know that it's something that matters to you. I'll give you an example. I know that on my to do list, I have this thing I have to do of updating my reel. And it's been on there for like months. And I finally was like, I'm just going to give myself the gift of getting that thing off my to do list because I know that there was a real reason for me as a on a soul level that I want that to be done. But like I actually physically do not want to do it and it does not seem fun at all. So it's like when you go through the motions of the thing, like expect it to not feel like yay. It's not like sometimes it's not going to be like a fun, exciting, passionate thing. It'll just like take some kind of like automatic actions to move through it, at least at the very beginning. And then you might find that it feels like better and better as you go. I know I'm speaking the obvious here, but I just had to throw that out. All right. The next tool is a check-in and really I wanted to ask you to look at how something started, maybe an issue you had, maybe something that was keeping you stuck, maybe something that you were really battling or struggling with, causing you pain, and look at how it is now. What is the status? Did anything that was set up in your life feel like, oh my God, it was totally insurmountable? I was so trapped there. I was so afraid of addressing it. I was so um, worried about it. And then just look at like, how's it going now? How, whatever the thing is, it could be like something so small, like a conflict you had with somebody, could be a worry about an issue in your life, a problem you wanted to solve. Just this is an opportunity to reflect. What is the status? Is anything work in progress? Did you get distracted and maybe make a full circle and go backwards? Did you get pulled into a situation that does not align with your priorities? What is already on its way? Give your whatever the circumstances were, give it a once over and like think about what can I do toward evolving today? Like whatever the situation is, um, how are you pushing yourself to evolve today? All right. The next tool, Marsha Linehan, one of our most amazing founders of dialectical behavioral therapy. She created an amazing set of tools that are used in so many amazing ways. One of these tools is called Getting into Solution. And this is for people who get trapped in a set of thought loops about why something happened. And so if you find you are trapped in like a reactive state of like rumination related to something, if you get really trapped in the like hating on something, a circumstance, and fixated there, one way to teach yourself out of that is to change because our brain and our body are so our thoughts and our actions are so tied together and like how we feel is very much created by our thoughts. But our actions also affect our thoughts. So, this tool is that you can actually take the power out of a thought. Like, let's say I'm like ruminating about why didn't this person want me to take over this project? Why? I offered it, I would be really good at it, and they didn't want me. Whatever the thing is that I'm fixated on, that I'm feeling really like hurt by, I can take the power out of it by taking intentional action towards solving that thing. And another form of this that is like extra powerful is contrary action. So if you, let's say you got in a fight with your spouse and you are like, oh, fuck that person. They were so mean and they totally ignored me. And I'm just so hurt. If you wanted to take the piss out of that feeling of like, I'm so hurt and I'm so in the right, contrary action would be taking an action in the opposite direction, away from your default emotional instincts, away from what your default body energy is telling you to do. Because the act itself, so in this circumstance, you would buy uh, your spouse flowers, or you would write them a nice email about something totally unrelated, or do something nice. That action teaches your brain, tricks your muscle memory out of your current of your feelings. It's like you're acting against the feeling, you're forcing your brain to recalibrate and shocking it out of the track that it's on. Because that track is so familiar, it's a groove. It's like, that unconscious groove you fall into, like when you drive home and not you didn't think about having to take certain streets, you just went. It's like the same exact thing. So this is great for derailing a loop or a script or a narrative, and stepping out of rumination. It also works when you are trying to derail or take the piss out of a response to a situation. Like if you are in a familiar situation and your normal response is to set up a specific train of actions. If you deliberately take an opposite contrary action, it'll feel like in the moment it'll feel fake. It'll feel like um not natural to you. It'll feel a little bit like you're you're just lying, but it will alter your ability to do that thing in the future. It opens up new muscle memory, it opens up new capacity. So, like, an example is like if you feel really afraid, you really wanted to take a dance class, but you're totally afraid of dancing in front of people, and you get there and you're like, the contrary action would be, and now I'm going to go first and I'm going to just start dancing in front of everybody. Like, that would be teaching your body, um, no, that's not true anymore, or nope, you're wrong. And your brain doesn't have time to narrate the new thing. It's like you've already kind of like flipped the wiring. And so, same goes for like if you're in a rut or if you're in like a channel of like feeling a groove that is leading to something that's not good. Like if you're feeling low, you would take the contrary action and start running as fast as you can, listening to like really peppy music, it's a super helpful tool and it's super simple. All right, the next tool, a mantra. Get out of your head and into someone else's. If you are noticing yourself going into kind of like a negative routine set of thoughts, the first thing you do is call it out, expose it to light, and ask for help. Ask for someone else to comment on that thought. It's like kind of like turning on the lights, opening up the basement, and like just airing it all out. I find that the one of the quickest ways to de-identify myself with something I'm not liking about myself is to talk about it and call it out. It's like suddenly it's not attached to me anymore, and it allows me to get grace from somebody else and not feel so angry at myself or judgmental toward myself about feeling that thing. When I'm struggling with something or I'm taking something hard and I'm not wanting something to be true or be a condition of my life, that's a voice or a force that is outside of me that can support me in seeing the other perspective and remind me of the other side of me in that equation being more true than that thing itself. So the fact that you're taking an act um, to separate from it is the truest form of you. You are the one that is outside the thing that is not liking the thing. And in order for God or love or truth or universe or positive energy to help you and to get you back on track, we have to be actively in places it can reach us. We have to be in as many places that we are reachable as possible. So, like, net, Be in more places. If you're struggling, be in more places, be around new things, be around more people. We have to be outside, we have to be around others, we have to have novel experiences. If you're just inside with no access to anybody, spirit has a harder time connecting to you and influencing you because it cannot channel through other things. There's just like limited access points, outside of like lightning breaking the ceiling open, um, and animating, a piece of silk to be whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean? So that is being open, being receptive, being in places that we can be reached and kind of communicated to through energy and through others. That is when we can be helped. That is when we can hear God. So if you're struggling, if you feel stuck, if you feel like, oh, I'm getting in that negative constricted state, first things first, be open, get into a state of like, I'm ready to receive and act as if and get out of, you need to get out of the enclosed space. And just the last part of that is like really letting go of the what, why, and how. Like, as I mentioned, it's very delicate. We cannot force it. It cannot be like aggressive in our judgment of it. We have to let go of what happens, how it happens, and when it happens. I speak with a lot of people who are like frustrated about um, success or about opportunity, and when will it be my chance, and when will I get this opportunity? And my advice or my guidance to people in those situations is a lot of the time, um, what we are meant to have and where we are meant to go is just like Frogger, like a really long game of Frogger. If you have not played Frogger, it's this frog that's trying to cross the street, and it's got like cars, lines and lines of cars that are crossing in front of it, and he has to wait for one to like go through the little break in the cars, and then has to wait again for the next break in the cars and the next break. So you have to wait for that specific opening. And I don't know when it's going to happen, but you have to hold your goal and your dream in your heart and in your mind's eye, and embody it with all of yourself as if there is no opening in the cars. And that is just, you have to live it truly and let go of what will happen if it will happen, and just be in that state of love for the thing, for the act in itself. And eventually, you will get to a very specific place that was meant only for you, that was only meant to happen at a very specific time for a very specific reason. It will make sense after the fact. But in the moment, if you're in the energy of like, why? Why not me? And why not this thing? It's like you're in the energy of judgment and not enough. And it's not love. It's not really coming from the right place. And if you're finding that you're struggling with not having the reward and not having the thing, I'm going to guess that that's coming from ego and a place of, I need it to feel worthy. I need it to feel good enough. And I need it to feel proud of myself. So it's like that's a separate issue I would ask you or invite you to shed light on, process a bit more. All right. The next tool is called My Parasite. I think we all have what I will call a parasite that is equivalent to whatever our particular form of weakness is. And it might be, bottomless pit feeling. Like, what is your bottomless pit feeling, and what do you tend to fill it with? And whatever your vice is, it could be something like self pity, it could be judgment of others, being judgy. Regardless, what it will do when you're in it is it'll make your ego feel good and just, even though this thing makes you feel really bad. And I think that's just something I wanted to call out, because I think sometimes we get into a state of rumination and we feel like almost satisfied by it. Like, or when you're talking shit about people, that's a similar feeling. It's like it can almost make you feel good. And it's like satisfaction. It's a version of satisfaction. But I just wanted to remind you that that actually keeps you low. When you're in that state, even though it can feel kind of gratifying, it's it's actually making you define yourself as separate from others, and it makes you feel bad about yourself. It secretly makes you feel shitty. And when we're putting a good rule of thumb is if if it's never enough, if you get into that feeling of not enough, it's not enough, of judgment of others, either you're putting others higher or you're putting them lower, or you're seeing yourself as a victim. When you're in that mode, that's your parasite. That's, and know that it's insatiable. There's nothing that will ever fulfill it. It is a bottomless pit. It's a trick. It will never, ever be fulfilled. And so that's the best way to recognize it. If, let's say you're in the like self pity of like, that person wronged me and they disappointed me. And then let's say they like apologize in their own way. They send a peace offering and you're like, I'm not accepting that. That's not even close to enough. And as soon as you're starting to not be satisfied with any current in the right direction, you can label it in your mind immediately as like, oh, I'm in it. I'm in the parasite, or I'm in the devil, or I'm in the disease, whatever name you want to give it. As soon as you're there, I'm like, oh shit, I'm into this. I got to get out of this. My rule of thumb for myself is either need to take a contrary action, take an opposite action, or I need to skip it by literally like going to sleep and like just resetting my whole chemistry, or you need to change your chemistry. And I feel like changing your chemistry can be something like, I'm going to go swimming in the ocean, something that shock your nervous system a little bit, reset your nervous system, getting a change of scenery, a change of like a channel change. Really being intentional about how do I change my body's channel, and like leaping into another day, basically. It is totally possible. Do not ever think that it's not. Just it takes noticing where you're at and then deliberately choosing, like, okay, I got to change channels and I got to get out of this route, this little um, train track that I'm stuck on, and I got to jump the tracks. All right. Next tool, um, mantra. I can only be a lighthouse. I think when it comes to codependence and when it comes to really being a great helper, it is hard to let go of a dream we have of who someone else can be. And especially when it comes to people we care about, it can be really frustrating, really painful, really draining to try and support somebody and try and cheer them up every single time you talk to them for years on end. And so if you are in a relationship like this where somebody is just not thinking positively, not changing their habits, you're telling them all the things they could do, you're giving them all these tools, you're helping them physically, you're helping them financially, whatever the thing is, you can only be a lighthouse, meaning the most effective way to change other people is really to be an example by living in a healthy way yourself. And eventually, if they want it for themselves, they will recognize who are the people in my life who are like really living healthy, happy lives. And that will be the model for them to change themselves. You cannot do it for them, you cannot offer them directions. They will have to see it, witness it, and then repeat whatever that other person is doing. That is the best way to help somebody. They have to do it themselves and they have to witness it in somebody else and say, like, wow, I want that for myself. All right. The next tool, suffering from terminal uniqueness. I love this phrase because I feel like when I first started to try and get help for myself, I had so many fucking problems. I was like, I was just really, I was thinking back to myself. I'd just been thinking about giving help and relief to myself as a young person because there were many years in my life when I was like, wow, I'm going to die. I'm just going to die from all my vices because I could not figure out how to help myself. And I was so sad. I was so afraid. I felt so alone and I felt so hopeless. And so I've been trying to like just in my body go back and like be like, keep going. You're okay. You're not alone and you will get there. But I think one of the circumstances that really held me back in that period of time in my life was I felt nobody got me. And I was like, nope, that doesn't work for me. Nope, you do not think like me. I am so not into all this weird shit. Like, would go into every single form of help. And I would think like, you guys are losers. I don't like any of you. And I would really define myself as like, I'm so special and so different. And my standards are so high and things that work for you do not work for me. So that is described as suffering from terminal uniqueness. And that script of that only works for you, that's not for me, is a common perspective a lot of people have around change, around self-work, around openness, around anything that feels too earnest or too saccharine or too positive. It can be very triggering. For a lot of people, it can be very triggering, especially if you had an upbringing where you were kind of forced into, I don't know, a way of thinking that wasn't for you, or people tried to force you into things they said would help you and then they all failed you. Like if you have a history of parents just kind of being incapable or not showing up for you, or the tools that were offered you didn't work for you, your your belief will be there's nothing that will help me because it would have I would have figured it out by then. If you grew up as a kid who had to do everything yourself and was the only person who could solve things for yourself, your expectation is, your judgment of everything is, I'm the only one that can fix it. I'm the only one that can figure out the answer because that's been true for you your entire life. But that's not true. That has been true for you as a child, but that is not true in reality. And I recall that feeling of like, I know for a fact because everyone has failed me before and nothing has worked for me before, there is no solve for me. And it has to be on my terms. It's like the system itself of being so black and white inside of you is the only thing that needs to change. And the only way to do that, this is the hardest part, is to let go of control and to start to practice openness and acting as if. It really, the only problem, the only block is black and white thinking, a black and white way of working. And that is a part of what happens when we are um, in a state of powerlessness for a really long time is we get very black and white. We get very controlling and we become very rigid about like, nope, it can only be in this way. It can only be on my terms or else. So if this feels true for you, if all of this feels true for you, I'm only asking you to start coming from the energy of acting as if I'm open, acting as if I'm teachable, acting as if I am fixable, acting as if I can be a different kind of person, acting as if maybe I can try something that doesn't feel true for me yet, acting as if maybe it will help, acting as if maybe I'm not hating this every second and maybe I am just going to participate and do my best. That's that is it. That is the key. It's so concise. It's just that. That is the key to all that you want, all the change that you want. It's just that little tiny step, but it feels so against our muscle memory. So walk toward it. Just start there. Start there. All right, the next tool, self review. This is a reflection I'm inviting you to do. It's a little weird. I wanted to offer it up. Um, I I'm just telling you exactly what made me think of this tool. I like to do Peloton exercises, and I was just thinking because I always tend to do the same teachers on my Peloton, and I was thinking about like all of the kind of you get to know the baseline of the individual people and like kind of like their default um makeup energetically of them as a person. And you just kind of see it because of like the many, many hours that you witness them through all these different audiences and circumstances and topics and whatever. And I think one thing I just started thinking about was like, who am I and my baseline? What is my baseline energy as an individual? Because there are certain teachers, for example, like that are like, you can sense there's an undercurrent of scarcity and that like they feel personally um attacked, not attacked, but like they feel affected by how other people act in their class. And that is something I just noticed about their baseline. And then there are other teachers that are like, I need nothing. I'm here as a like unfettered, fully confident in myself, boundless, full cup energy. And that energy is so different in how you experience it as a baseline. It's such a comfortable energy to be around because it's like, oh, yeah, I'm full, I'm complete. Like, I don't, nothing you do will take from me anything. I will not take it personally. So, this whole exercise is I invite you to review yourself from this perspective. And really, the point of this reflection is to think about how you present as an overall baseline in your day to day. Like, how would you say people would know your energy? And I think a lot of this is not to like judge yourself and feel bad about yourself. A lot of this answer will come from how resourced you are, and meaning how much of your non reactive self you have access to. I know for myself, when I had a young child who was like 1 or 2 and a 5 year old, like that period of time, I was the most taxed I have ever been energetically, like on a blood glucose level, and also for sleep and for time for myself. And so, like, in that period of time, my baseline was like fucking terrible. Like I was constantly like, what? Like constant like 0 to 60 in like reactivity and whatever. So, and but I was wishing it was different. So I'm not saying like judge yourself for whatever this answer is. It's more about just reflecting openly with yourself. So you can ask yourself, do I want to alter? Do I need to alter anything to be different? Do I need to give myself a little bit more um, resource? Or do I need to intend to be differently in my circles? Like, am I kind of defaulting to like, psha, nobody matters? Or are you defaulting to like, I want to make everybody feel good after they interact with me? All right, that's that tool. The next tool, actually, these tools are like similar. They're two kind of like mantras ish. Whatever you do, it must come from truth. I think this is just a really nice reminder that allows you to let go of control because it's not up to you. It is true. Whatever is true for you, your job is just to listen to that thing and it will be. Like it's not up to you and that's such a relief. So if you're worried about something, if you're ambivalent about something, if you're like, "Ugh, I don't know what to do. I like feel strongly in two different directions." Like let go. And this next tool, pray for the answer, take your hands off the wheel. If you don't know the answer to something, when you are truly ambivalent, it is because there is no clear answer. There are pros and cons to each option. And like, thankfully, you don't have to solve it. It's not up to you. All you can really do is take one step in the direction of truth for you, take another step in direction of truth, take another step in the direction of truth, and let go. Not your job, not your fault. Whatever will be is really ultimately, um, as long as you are honest, the outcome will be correct. As long as you are completely coming from honesty and not from fear, aka control, like a need to like make it on your terms. All right, and my last tool is an end of night reflection. I think this is just a really nice way to maintain being in alignment. I do this for myself is like when I get into bed, I ask, what is not sitting right with me? What is in my energy? What is stuck in my energy? And like go right into it immediately. Like, what is the stuff that is not sitting in you in a peaceful way? And the reason that those things stick out, the reason that they are kind of lodged in our energy is because we probably didn't like something that we had to do. We didn't like the way we made somebody feel, or we were like um unhappy about having to go through a specific situation. But the reason to go through this practice is because where something is sticking out highlights the truth of who you are. It highlights the truth of your goodness. So if something hurts, it's because you are a loving person. It's because you are a good person. So that's really the reason to go into it is to remind yourself like I didn't like that I did this because I am good. And therefore, I want to pull this thing off of me and look at it and see it as, why did this happen? Why did this come about? What caused this thing to occur? Because it's definitely not something I believe in. It's not something that sits right with me. So when we can gut those worries, quite literally, this is the prompt I would give you. Is there anything I did today that is not sitting right with me? Whatever the thing is, call it out. And then, second, ask, how would I choose to do it differently? I wish I did blank. Next prompt, what was the original act coming from? So it's usually something very logical and sweet. The next answer or question, how can I give myself compassion for that impetus? And then the last step, can I correct it in any way? Is there anything I need to say? And if not, if I did wrong someone, one thing I like to do is just send them love. I don't mean like, cross a boundary that's like been set up for a good reason. Like you can visually just send that person love if, it'll give you relief and it'll create actual peace for you. So those are my tools. I hope they are so helpful, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if anybody wants to find out more of my work, you can go to yaywithme.com. And if you can leave me a review on iTunes or on SoundCloud or on Spotify, that would be awesome. I would really appreciate it. So in closing, uh, life events have a really big role in who we um, practice being in our adult lives, but they are our experiences, our life events, our upbringing does not create who we are. Like people change so dramatically over time, and you cannot oftentimes trace an adult back to who they were as a child. And so, like, if you are a person who is feeling like insecure or is feeling like you're not capable of certain things, um, know that that is really the only task at hand is to come into a real embodiment of like what you want. What do you want for yourself? Really come into that energy of love, because we are changing dramatically all through our life. We are not destined to be a certain thing based on our childhood. So, really being a secure person is just the ability to tolerate risk and tolerate ups and downs and tolerate change and still feel grounded in response to those things. Like that, I would say, because if you are a person who's gone through complicated things, you are probably have the wiring that has made you more capable of being that, but you just have to do an extra set of growth to get to train in that state of being. You have to create the life events for yourself to condition yourself to get to that destination. So I offer that up. Pray for the right answer to come. Resume a state of trust in your body. Don't control the answer or the outcome. And know that everything you do must come from truth. Just, that's such a relief. The truth is the truth. It's not my job to control it. My job is just to honor it and just allow it to come forth. I send you my love, and don't forget to smile.